This is the VFC Glock 17, licensed by Umarex with full Glock trades. So this is a full licensed Glock 17. It comes with a polymer lower, but it is the same as the real thing. The one thing to note about this particular Glock, it is the real dimensions. So all of your real holsters, it's gonna fit straight in with no worries at all. The upper, the slide is made of an aluminium. It's not CNC'd or anything fancy, but it's pretty robust from our testing. We've dropped it, it hasn't exploded. Some of the Wii's have dropped and shattered. That is the nature of cheap pot metal, which this certainly isn't. Aside from the external plastic lower and slide being made of aluminium, what powers this pistol? It's got a VFC proprietary trigger system, so none of those parts are going to be TM compatible, unfortunately. But from our testing, the lower half of this gun has not needed any modification from factory to work well. The upper, however, is slightly different. This is not entirely proprietary, which I'm sure some of you will be very glad to hear. It's got a tried and tested TM hop-up system. All of your VSR-based buckings, your PDI, your maple leaf, should fit straight in, no issues. The barrel and the bucking, that is. That part is excellent, and we know those work. This is what we like to hear from a company. Not everything has to be custom. The blowback housing and the nozzle are, however, proprietary, and we'll dive into that in a bit. Why those parts do need a small amount of modification to work well. So worth mentioning, this is the CO2 variant of this gun. Why does that make a difference? The trigger, for one. The trigger will feel very different compared to the gas counterpart for this pistol. We'll dive into it now. Why I like this trigger so much. So, mag is clear, gun is empty. I don't want to shoot a hole in the ceiling today. So, going on to this trigger now. So it's got a small amount of take up on the trigger. There's a nice solid wall, which is very unlike the Wii's, with a very crisp pull. It's about a 3-pound trigger. It's your military standard and it is extremely comfortable to use. Now going on to the reset for this trigger, a very audible and precise click. It really should be the standard, so nothing to write home about here. The trigger, extremely nice, and with CO2 you will feel that a lot more as the hammer hits the bulb. Now, what is the other benefit of this being CO2, of course? Well, the one thing that's drawn you all here and the reason we love these guns so much, the recoil is fantastic. Kicks like an absolute mule, and nothing, honestly, is more fun than dumping a mag out of this thing. What makes it even more fun? The gas efficiency on this thing is bloody fantastic. You'll get between 200 to 300 rounds without fail every single time. So those of you who are worrying about having a bandolier full of CO2, this is not going to be the gun for that. This mag for this gun will probably last you all day. Obviously the mag for this gun is about £50 in the UK, so that does come up premium, but for me personally, I run about 3 magazines for this pistol, and that is just fine for me, and not having to reload the CO2 all day is a massive bonus. Over guns like the Wii, which can sometimes go through 2 to 3 mags, need a re-gas or a re-CO2, which is a bit of a hit on the efficiency rating. Okay, so now before any of you comment saying what we've done wrong here, this gun is cleared, and I would show you, but I really don't care. Now we're gonna go and put the mag inside this gun, if I can find the mag well, and we're gonna give it a quick shoot over there, except a herd of small animals. Now what you're going to see from that footage is it does kick. And unlike a lot of gas guns, where you're getting the impulse of the slide coming back and that inertia is causing the recoil, it's more of a flip. With this one, the kick is into the palm of your hand, which is an extremely different experience and feels phenomenal compared to other gas pistols. On green gas, this gun still has that level of kick thanks to VFC's proprietary recoil system. Moving on now from the positives, which are plentiful, I should mention, to the negatives. What is the big downside you guys are going to see straight away with this pistol? Well, for one, the paintwork is absolutely shit. It has come off so fast. And when I say fast, I mean fast. It has been drawn out of a holster 20 times, maybe more, but it is mostly a range gun. This is not a gun we have fielded a hell of a lot. COVID has stopped us getting to as many games as we would like to. Now, this thing has still had about 6,000 rounds through it, which for a pistol equates to something like over 200 magazines worth, which is more than pretty much any of your pistols I would bet have been through. Next point, not only has it got a bad paint job, but the rear sight is far from secure. In our first outing with this pistol, the sight would slide left to right on the top of the gun, and it is sharp. Without gloves, you are going to cut your hands. Moving on, What else is bad about this gun? Internally, it has had work. If you don't want to work on your guns, under no circumstances, buy this pistol. The nozzle return spring had to be changed almost immediately. The nozzle will not in fact fully return and can cause double feeds, jams, all sorts of things. It is not an ideal situation for a pistol, and on a pistol that costs as much as this does, it is disappointing to see out the box. On the bright side, shops like WGC, domestically, you can find them. Nozzle return springs aren't a lot of money. We threw a 150% recoil spring in here and we haven't had a single issue since. Is it one you should have to do? Probably not, but that's where we're at with this pistol. So, nozzle return spring, the hop rubber, and the barrel have been changed. And why do we change the hop system, really? That is because it was pretty shoddy out of the box. TMs, I have to give it to them, perform exceptionally out of the box when using the correct weights. About 2.5 to 2.8 is what they recommend. This was barely hitting a man-sized target at around 20 feet with the stock setup in there. Luckily, aftermarket options are available for the hop-up unit, and that is something which is great to see on a pistol like this. You want to upgrade it to your heart's content. There's plenty of parts out there. There are in fact CNC aluminium slides out there as part of their deluxe kit. They're expensive. Do I think you need them? Probably not, but that's for you to decide. So our last point to cover before we finish this video, there is a pretty major one. Now, we don't know if this is exclusive to our Glock, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. As many of you know, Glocks are pretty universal in the way their slide comes off. You pull down these tabs here, you pull it and pull it forward and it should come straight off, which is how it should work, in theory. When we fired it, we've had it come off a few times. Our in particular slide release has been stuck down several times. You can probably see when I pulled it down, it can be a bit hesitant to return to the top, which can cause an issue because, as you know, with the cycle of a weapon, the slide comes back, it goes forward. If the slide release does not hold it, it will fly forward and has at games in fact flung off the front of the weapon. Now, although that is comedic for our purposes and is quite entertaining for everyone around us, it does pose the issue where it's a fucking dead weapon at that point. And what can you do with it? Now, this might be a particularly abused weapon and maybe that part's worn down, or maybe in fact our weapon is that dirty because we've thrown it in mud puddles. But I don't believe that is an issue that is exclusive to ours, and I'm sure once we put this video out there, there will be some of you who have experienced the same thing. Maybe a stronger spring could fix this, I don't know, but in our experience, that's happened over a dozen times over the 6,000 rounds we put through this. So, is this in fact the best Airsoft Glock? That is a very individual question. For me, I would say yes. It is in fact the best Airsoft Glock on the market currently. It's definitely got the heaviest recoil out of any Glock we've fired. Armor Works, VFC, TM as well. This by far will kick the hardest, and I cannot stress that enough. Until you get one of these in your hand with CO2, you really cannot quite comprehend the recoil on this thing. I'm not trying to claim it's as heavy as a real 9mm gun. None of them are. They're toy guns. Get a grip. But it is heavy, and it's extremely satisfying to shoot. Mag dumping is the best thing you can do with this gun, and I'm sure countless CO2 bubbles will be thrown away because of this gun. But is the recoil enough to justify its price and its build? No, frankly, it's overpriced and it has issues which should not exist out the factory. But if you can see past them and you don't mind working on your guns, then buy this. The GHK Glock has come out recently and failed to meet every promise. I can promise you, if you put the work in with this pistol, you will enjoy it, and it is worth it, in my opinion. And if you're poor, then that sounds like a you problem. This has been Blowback Airsoft, guys. I think we've covered everything we want to cover today. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.